This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, good morning everybody and welcome aboard to a very wet, rainy and misty Djuma traverse of the Greater Kruger National Park of South Africa. We're coming to you live and my name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera this morning we've got Davy. How's it, Davy? And good morning to all of you. Now please don't forget to join us on the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions and your comments and get involved on this interactive game drive. Now, I think I jinxed things yesterday by saying that we don't get winter rainfall here while I was out on the bushwalk because, well, we've woken up this morning and we've got some rain. So it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out. Well, it does sometimes help when it's very cool and wet a little bit like this. And so it can make predators walk around or be a little bit more active than usual. But we've just started out and we can obviously see the tracks a little bit easier along the road because it does make for a little bit easier tracking when you're driving around now after a little bit of a splattering of rain and so on. So you can see there it is a real gloomy start to the morning. But just from here we're going to possibly go and head out and see if we can catch up with all those leopards that were spotted yesterday. A couple of the females, Kuchava, the daughter of Tandi, who was around together. And so from there, we're also going to have a look at Tingana. And between the guides, it's myself out on vehicle, as well as Sydney. He'll also be out. And I think Byron, he'll be holed up in the tent with this kind of weather. He was supposed to be out on bushwalk, so I'm sure he'll be in the tent this morning with all sorts of skeletons and things underneath the microscope. But, well, we're going to head out now and we're going to go and see where we're going. Now, it seems like they're telling me from FC that Byron's actually going to try and brave the cold and wet weather, but well, it's not too bad. It's not coming down heavily. It's just a little bit of a splattering. And well, speaking of the other guides, it seems Sydney has got himself out there and I'm sure he can't wait to say hello.
A very, very good morning, everyone. I am Sydney and I am not alone this morning. I am traveling with Sebastian, our photographer for this morning, and hopefully as a team we hope we are all going to enjoy our natural environment here this morning. Yesterday we experienced a lot of activities amongst the cats of different species, leopards and lions. This morning we are going to check if those cats are still in the same area to try and see what are the development, what took place at night and what is going to happen this morning. Thank you very much. So we can carry on. So let me try and see if the weather is not that very bad. On the ground, I can still see that the tracks, they are not completely rubbed yet. The chances of doing the trekking is very there, and it's also very nice after the rain because it can help me in order to see the fresh tracks. So it means all the tracks for last night has been rubbed. The tracks that I'm going to see now will all be the tracks of this morning. as you all know that I am not alone here out in the field. I am with my other colleagues. I am now heading to Rolf, who's got something interesting to show us on the other side.
Thank you, Sydney. Well, not just yet. As I say, I'm heading in that direction where those leopards were spotted yesterday. Now, I've just come past Vuyatela Dam, and anybody that would have been watching the dam cam would have seen that I've just come past there. It doesn't seem like there's any activity or any tracks along the road here for now. And when I say no tracks, obviously there's lots of tracks of birds and all sorts, impala and so on, but nothing of the leopard or lion kind. And even hyena, I haven't seen anything as of yet. Last night, in the early evening, we did hear some elephants moving past camp, as well as some hyenas quite close by as well. They were doing their characteristic whooping. Whoop. There wasn't any cackling or laughing from them. So it just seemed like they were just doing their general hyena behavior, walking past, letting each other know where exactly they are. But for the moment, a little bit quiet in this section, but it's quite obvious that I think those leopards may be still in the same area where they were starting off yesterday morning and yesterday afternoon as well. What we did hear, however, was the lions roaring. Now, I think it was those Avoca males that Byron was watching yesterday during the SafariLive show. So I think we'll go and have a look. Oh, there's some impala there. Why don't we just start off and have a look at some of these animals that are just showing themselves. It's nice to see something with a relatively large body mass and a heartbeat. We'll start off the morning like that, and I'm sure you'll see a little bit of their hair raised when it's cold and wet like this in the morning. You very often see with the impala, they exhibit piloerection, which is raising of the hairs to trap the warm air very close to their body, and that assists in keeping them warm, much like a wetsuit or a neoprene bodysuit would do, trapping water very close to the body and then enabling the body to heat that water up. The impala do exactly the same, but with air. So in one sense, you could say that that's a very clear-cut case of biomimicking. I'm sure humans had used a lot of animals, not necessarily impala. I'm sure they probably used seals or something like that, but to mimic that wetsuit type apparatus that we would use. Now, biomimicking, copying animals in human science or any of the techniques that we use. For instance, an aeroplane and all the science around the wings and getting lift from getting the air to flow faster over the top of the wings, and that in a sense giving you lift. So there's all sorts biomimicking in human life that we have used, and a lot of the things we don't even realize how the scientists have copied animals and making our lives easier. But these guys just, or should I say girls, without the horns, just doing a little bit of feeding nice and early in the morning here. Is that one having a little bit of a chew on a tambuti? That's interesting, that they are just moving around there. Winter months, not too much in the way of variation or variety for these animals. They would have to be accessing quite strange vegetation, so it's not past them to have a little bit of a nibble on some tambuti. And that one there actually looks like a little male that we were looking at. There's a female, a little bit bigger. See the massive eyes. Yeah, there's a little male there. Massive eyes, making also very daytime viewers. So, it's just very relaxed little morning for them. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a runny nose. It's all as a result of this cold front that has moved through. A lot of us have experienced a bit of flu and so on because of this adverse weather conditions. And you normally get that with a big change in temperatures. I'm sure you've experienced this as well. So a bit of snot noses and blocked throats and all sorts. So that's a couple of these impala. And these would fall prey to some of the leopards if they had to spot them and hide from them as they're just moving through. They could very easily become breakfast. Very clear M markings on their bottoms, that black stripes. It's also very indicative of impala, as well as those metatarsal glands down the bottom of their back legs. And apparently one of the only, or if not the only, antelope that does indeed have those metatarsal glands. It's not entirely sure what they are used for. There's lots of theories around it. The one that makes the most sense, or that has stuck, is that they use it to follow each other when they disperse from mostly predators, and then they exhibit the stotting behavior, and that's flexing that gland and leaving a bit of a scent trail. Excuse me. You see, I'm not quite sure what they're actually feeding on there. Seems like they're really picking up little leaves or so, maybe from this tambuti. Anyway, it's a very grey morning. You can see there's not too much contrast, eh? Snazzy, thanks for your question. Well, animals can get a little bit sick from their diet, and I'm sure you would have seen it with cattle and goats and sheep. Sometimes when what they feed on, it can make their milk, for instance, very sour, or even sort of noxious or toxic to their youngsters, and it can also result in them getting a little bit under the weather as well. Wild animals, however, like these impala and the kudu and for instance the porcupine and so on, they're so well evolved in this natural area, and they've been here for eons that they're pretty good at digesting all of these plants because they've had that time to evolve an adaptation to survive with the different kinds of vegetable protein around here. But it sometimes, especially when we have adverse conditions or years without rain and exceptional years, then obviously the grasses that are presented and the vegetation that is presented to the animals can be a little bit unpalatable. It can also be very nutritionless, and so the animals do start to get a losing condition. They can also start to become a little bit sick as well. And they can start to eat some of the noxious plants that could maybe then assist in them losing their condition. And at those times, you'll also have a lot of the parasites that are normally on them, but during those times they proliferate like the ticks. And that's when you start having natural selection and survival of the fittest. When only the fittest will come through, and those genes then passed on to the next generations. And it's actually a very important cycle that they do go through when there's tough times, and resulting in the strongest genes being passed on. But some of the vegetation, yes, absolutely, it can lead to them being a little bit sick sometimes. So, right. So we've been watching these beautiful impala, and I think it's time for us now to maybe move on to some of the animals that might even eat them.
Yeah, we are still trying to get hold of something very interesting. but so far there's no luck and no fresh tracks. I was just lucky to come across the old evidence. You can see on the ground there I have got some elephant droppings, which are not that very old. It's droppings for yesterday, probably droppings for last night. So you can see not even yet disturbed by some other birds, as sometimes you find birds such as the francolins and the guinea fowls, they come and disperse in order to get the seeds. But looking very carefully on those droppings, you can see that there is no much activities took place. Now, by this time of the year, it's very, very rare, not easy to find the droppings with the insects such as the dung beetles. So, but coming by the rainy season, you will see there's going to be a lot of dung beetles trying to roll these droppings. And these dung beetles, they are so very much important and interesting in this environment. Without having the dung beetles, South Africa as a country was going to experience a lot of problems with regards to the population of flies. So now I am going to drive down to Twins Dam and see if we can find something down there, as now here where I am there is no luck. So let's carry on and see what we're going to find as we go down this road. But hopefully we're going to find something. The weather is not bad. It's not very bad in terms of the animal activities. So we're just going to go down this road and try to see if we can find something interesting.
You can link to Byron on Bushwalk.
So I am now going to take you back. I've got my other colleague who's got very much interesting things going on. He is out now on a guided walk. I've got Byron. Byron is going to show you interesting things on his side.
Good morning, everyone. It's a cold and wet morning for a bushwalk, but it's not that bad. It actually looks like it's starting to lift. My name is Byron, and on camera with me this morning is Craig. Now, I'm not too sure what we are going to look for this morning, but I'm very excited. And I'll tell you why. It's because after rain like this, you do get a lot of animal activity. There may be some leopards that have been walking around, not sure where those male lions went. And I know Ralph also touched on it as well as Sydney. With the wet ground and the wet soil, it's easier to find fresh tracks and to track animals. So that's what we're going to try to do this morning. Now, we just out in the clearings. As I said, it looks like this bit of drizzle and mist has lifted. So let's hope it stays away for the duration of the bushwalk. It is a chilly morning this morning, but perfect for walking. So we're going to see. Hopefully we can find something for you on foot today. Who knows? Who knows? Weather like this, I have seen pangolin and aardvark get very active. So you might, who knows? We might have some luck. Maybe someone spots it on a vehicle. Imagine finding a pangolin on the bushwalk. That would be incredible. Now, you asked, what is my favorite insect to find on bushwalk in winter? I must be honest, there's still a few little active spiders around and that, and I do enjoy seeing different spiders from time to time. What else have we seen? I'm trying to think of other interesting insects we've seen now in winter. You do still see a few butterflies around from time to time. I have seen some butterflies around, and I mean, butterflies are just beautiful. Doesn't matter what species it is, but always nice to see a few still around. So I'd have to go with butterflies. Now, it looks like an elephant has gone to town on this tree. He's definitely been feeding. You can see how these branches have been broken. This is a silver cluster leaf that the elephant decided to feed on, possibly feeding on the bark, maybe some of the leaves. But amazing to see, again, just the power of these animals. And you all know I'd love to find some elephant on foot this morning for you. So we'll see. Yesterday was an action-packed day. There was 3 leopards, 3 lions. There was a lot going on. And maybe, just maybe, there's still some of that leopard activity around. Anyway, we're going to get going a little bit further away from camp. Let's head back to Ralph and find out how the morning's going.
Well, we're coming into the area where I always get very excited because this is where the leopards seem to be hanging out, in my experience anyway, for the last little while. I've been finding Thandi and Tlalamba in this particular area. This is Nyala Road North, Nyala Road South, heading a little bit into the sort of southern central part of the Djuma Traverse. I like this drainage line that's running through. So just working it here as I'm making my way towards where Thandi, Kuchava and the lions, as well as Tingana, were spotted yesterday as well. So just checking these little drainage lines as we move through. I haven't seen any fresh sign of any of these cats just yet. So we are making our way in that direction, and just so that you're aware, I'm sure you would have seen the poles, the black poles in your picture as we pan around, as Davy moves the camera like that. That's obviously with our roof that we've got on at the moment, just protecting or trying to protect as much as possible the electronic equipment from this wet and rainy weather. Now let's see what your weather is like around the world. Send us your pictures of if you've got rain, if you've got snow, wherever you are, to the hashtag SafariLive on the Twitter handle, because we'd love to see what it's like, whether you live in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. If you're in the north, I know that you guys are probably enjoying some nice summer weather, and it would be nice to see what it looks like in your part of the world, whether you're in the southern hemisphere and enjoying some good weather as well, or north or south having a little bit of adverse conditions like we're having now. It's always interesting to see, especially if it's out of the ordinary, like what we're having now. It should be cold for us, especially with this cold front that has moved through, but it generally doesn't rain. But, well, you know, the weather conditions don't listen to our sort of conformity as humans. But it's not generally like this. The only place or the area that gets rain in winter in South Africa normally is the Western Cape. So we would, with a cold front like this, would have been getting very cold, normally associated with quite big winds as well, very sort of getting towards icy weather, not too icy here in the particular low veld, but this rain is out of the ordinary. Our sweet history, you say it's really hot in Philadelphia. Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying the heat. I prefer the heat. I could go with the 35-degree Celsius and the sort of 80% humidity much easier than this kind of weather. I do find it much more difficult to warm up than it is to, you know, just have very little clothing on and let the wind blow through. Now, Doc, you say it's 5 degrees in Joburg. I know I was there a couple of evenings ago and it was terribly cold. It was, I'm sure it was minus degrees, and we went out to watch the soccer football, and even in the pub there were big heaters and all of that. Yeah, definitely not like what we were doing last night, standing around in shorts and yeah, having a jersey on, but still not, and for us here it's actually very cold. Everybody's saying how freezing it is here in the low veld, but it's not freezing. It's colder than normal, but it's nothing like what we experience up on the high veld in the interior. And that's also one of the reasons why I'm driving very slowly around, just to keep that wind chill factor to a minimum, but at the same time also giving us a better chance of spotting some game. Now, as I say, it can result in the predators being a little bit more active. If there's a little bit of a splattering of rain as well, it does make it easier for them to approach any unsuspecting prey, because it dampens the noise. It also dampens the smell. With the rain coming down, it sort of drops their smell down to the ground. So you can approach animals closer or easier if there's a little bit of rain like this. It's almost like walking through a river, with the same sort of concept that your smell gets lost, or especially your track on the ground, and with the rain like this, drops your smell to the ground and also dampens then the noise as you come through. Now here I just tried to turn to keep that pole out the way, and there's a couple of young Nyala bulls, with one a little bit older than that. Now once again, sorry for that pole. I tried to get it into a good spot, but I obviously got it into a worse spot. Sorry, Davy. I'll maybe just shift a little bit further forward, just so that you can see them from the up. Sorry about that. And now we've got some impala running through up front. I don't know why they were running, but it's just, it looks a little bit suspicious here. I want to just sit still. Now, heather lily, antelope horns do continue growing throughout their life, but they definitely do slow down once they get a little bit older. And so these youngsters, well, these two in front here, their horns will still be growing rather quickly, and the one at the back there that's a little bit older, his horns are now going to be slowing down. But yes, much like your toenails and your fingernails and your hair, it will continue to grow, but even as humans age, it does then start to slow down once we reach our twilight years, or get a little bit older like that. So now, those Nyala, as you saw, they were looking in that direction because we saw these impala running across in front of us, and they came from the southern side. I want to go and have a look there and see if maybe they were running away from something. Maybe they were running away from something. Maybe they were running away from another male impala who was chasing them around. But what bird is that up in the tree there, Davy? Can you see it straight ahead? Straight ahead, what is that? Is that a woodpecker? That is a woodpecker. And there he goes around the tree. Now, it's one of those things that are difficult to spot, but I know it's a little bit easier on foot. Let's go to Byron and see if he's been able to find anything like that.
Well, no luck with animals just yet, but look at this beautiful bird. Busy cleaning its feathers, preening itself. That is a grey-headed bushshrike. Is it the grey-headed bushshrike, orange-breasted? It looks a little bit large. Sorry, I'm just trying to scan with the binoculars here. Beautiful bird, but you can see, look at that, that's definitely the grey-headed. You can see the beautiful big grey top of the head, that thick beak. There's a bit of a orangey yellow chest to it. Oh, that's wonderful. How cool. Beautiful grey-headed bushshrike. Now, we have just there it goes. Ah, that's actually a lovely view of it again. It just flew to the base of that tree there, Craig. Yeah. It's great in weather like this, I suppose. These animals tend to, well, not fly around as much, tend to, oh, there we go. They just kind of save energy a little bit. It's a bit colder. Now, one thing that I was going to say is I came up onto this termite mound just to try scan the area a little bit, potentially see some animals moving past. But what I've seen, and it's a little concerning, is have a look. It looks like a bit of rain heading this way from the south. You can see that cloud is a lot thicker than mist, but that looks and appears to be rain. So I'm a little bit worried about that. I don't know if it's going to hit us. I can feel a lot more moisture in the air. We also just found tracks of a leopard. Let's go and have a look there quickly. Follow me. Herbie was just ahead of us, and he said he's got tracks of a leopard. Let's see if we can try and work out which leopard it is. I need to wipe the lens again. You see this moisture is coming in. This might be a problem for us. Let's just have a look here. And Craig said when he was getting the backpack ready, he thought he heard a leopard calling in this area. So possibly, I'm just trying to have a look here. Let's see, and again, hoping, yeah, there's a little bit of a, it's very, very faint. But look here, look at that. That is a very clear leopard track. Back pad, the toes going this way. Here is, let's see, we're going to find some clearer ones right here, I'm sure. There we go. Have a look at that. So this leopard has walked here very recently. So I think maybe within the last half an hour to walk down this road, judging by what the tracks look like. The rain that has fallen, a bit of moisture, these tracks are definitely on top of that. Look at that, very, very clear. So that is exciting. The tracks are heading down towards the drainage line, in fact, away from the clearings. So maybe we have some luck. I'm not too sure, but it is a female leopard. Definitely a female leopard. Smaller tracks, a little bit thinner, a little bit more elongated, not as round as a male track. That's how you can tell. So they're going down in this direction. Let's see, maybe we have some luck with the leopard on foot this morning. That would be great. And then hopefully this weather holds off for us. Because if it does hit us, we may have to turn back. So hopefully it holds off. I'm not sure. And then it's my last morning with everybody. For now, James has fired me again. But I'm sure I will be back soon. But let's see. I'm hoping to enjoy this last walk with you. And hopefully find some animals. Now let's go back across to Sydney and give him a hand with whatever he's looking for.
Yeah, it is still very difficult on my side here. I have picked up some leopard tracks, so we are trying to investigate. So we might be lucky. The possibilities are very high, as the tracks are also not that very bad. They look very fresh. Yeah, the grass, the color of the grass now after this little bit of shower, you can see is completely very reddish. It's quite very difficult to see the animals such as the leopards this morning with such beautiful spots. They can be very, very much camouflaged. Yeah, come again. I have lost the name. Can you please repeat the name for me? Yes, I did get the question, but I have lost the name. Lubombo girl, my favorite animal. Lubombo girl. Thank you very much for the question. My favorite animal is one of those animals which are very difficult to find, is the white rhino. I also like the black rhinos, but white rhino is my favorite. So let me try to see if maybe we're gonna find some tracks again. Yeah, those leopard tracks got disappeared, but we are right in the...
Why is your favorite animal the white rhino?
A white rhino is one of those beautiful, majestic animals. Yes, he is not that very temperamental. Black rhinos are very much temperamental. And the white rhinos, their hearing ability, eyesight is not that very good, but they can be able to survive with their poor eyesight and good hearing ability. Oh, there's some a waterbuck there. I just spotted a waterbuck. Yeah, right over there. No, there's quite a few of them. Yeah, it's quite a few of them. I've got the waterbuck. So you can see the male carry horns, so the females don't carry horns. Look at that fluffy hairs. That is definitely a sign that the weather this morning is a little bit cold, because you can see that the hairs are up. So both male and female waterbucks, if you can check right on their back, they have got a round line. That helps them when it comes to their eyesight. They can be able to see each other from a very long distance, and it can also serve as a follow me sign in case of danger. So what we are seeing now, it is the waterbuck, and at the back there is another one. They are both males. I'm not sure if it's only two in the area now or there is more. So these animals, they prefer to feed very close to the water holes. It's one of the animals predators such as leopards and lions don't like the most, because they've got a very interesting gland. It is called a sweat gland, whereby when they are threatened, they can secrete it, and it's going to make all the meat to become unpalatable. The meat will have the unpleasant taste. You can see that they are feeding with their whole concentration on us, so they can hear very well that there is something going on in the area. But they are very comfortable. I'm sure they are very sure that we are not part of their predators. Maybe that direction where that male, the big male, is heading to, maybe other ones are also heading towards that direction. Andrew, I did get your question. So the waterbucks, the weight of the waterbuck is not that too much. So it's a very simple weight. They can weigh up to 300 to 500 kilograms. So you can see they're still checking. He's feeding the one in front, feeding, but still checking at what is going on in the area. So we're going to carry on now and see if we can try to locate the tracks again for the leopard. The tracks are heading towards...
Can link to Rolf, looking for leopard.
So we are now going to go to Ralph. Ralph is busy trying to get hold of the leopards on the other side. Let's see if he's winning.
Well, I've managed to find some nice fresh leopard tracks, and I just want to see if I can indicate to you why I say that it is a little bit easier in this kind of weather to actually track leopards, because it really makes out very easy the tracks on the road. Yes, I can do it here. What I want to show you is there. Does my light actually show? Just a little bit. Doesn't really show, does it, Darby? I just wanted to show the line of these tracks that are moving up the road there. They're on the right-hand side of the road now, and they're quite contrasting in the way that they're moving. And even from the vehicle, I can see from quite a distance actually how they're moving up the right-hand side of the road here. Now, this is heading towards Twin Dams. This is a big male leopard within the last couple of hours, because he's walked on top of this, well, during this rain. So I'm hoping that we're not too far behind him. You know, looking at his gait, or the way that he was walking, it looks like a bit of a fast walk. So he could have gone quite far, obviously, in a couple of hours. And I'm suspecting that during this kind of weather, he's not particularly going to be going and lying down and going for a snooze. It's always possible, but I think he might be on the move. So if we just continue along here, maybe we'll find him near to the Twin Dams area, but he could also then cross out from there. So we'll just try our best and see if we can catch up with him. But we'll also just keep our eyes out for anything else as we're driving along. So that's, oh, was that a poo? Was that a leopard poo? It looks like it might be. There, just on the road there. Is that... it looks like that is a nice fresh leopard poo. So, that's him. I do believe that that's a nice steaming leopard poo. I'm sure that that was from tracks. It's a nice big male leopard. But we will now wait and see. Yeah, he's still on the road here. Nice and easy, as I say, from this perspective to follow on these tracks. Now Sasha, a nice big male leopard, he's going to weigh around 80 kilograms, and that would be at around 160 or maybe a little bit more pounds. And a female's normally around 60 kilograms. So a male leopard, pretty much my weight. Now I just want to check. So just to put that into perspective, I'm 6'3" and weigh around 80 kilograms. And so Tingana would probably weigh about that. I don't think that he's gone up this direction. So that puts it into good perspective. I mean, I'm not a small person, but I'm not huge either. But yeah, I would say that I'm slightly above average size. And so that does show that even a leopard who looks reasonably small when you see him in the bush is bigger than most people. And well, if you look at then lions, like a female would be 120, 130 kilograms, and a male lion being over 200 kilograms, it's incredible, because that's obviously bigger than most, if not all, people. So I'm just going to continue on taking these tracks, and hopefully we find Mr. Ting Ting, or the Duke of Djuma, but well, let's see how Byron's getting on out on foot closer to the ground.
Well, good luck, Ralph. I hope you have some luck with that male leopard. Now, we are searching. What we've done is we're circling this block where the leopard tracks have gone into. They've come in through this area and they are heading down towards Vuyatela Dam. So hoping that we have some luck too. There are also male lion tracks around here, and I'll see if I can find one to show you quickly. And I think possibly the Avoca males that moved around during the course of the evening, or yesterday. I'm not sure. These tracks are not fresh though. They're not fresh. They're not worth us trying to track and follow them now. You can see there's also been hyena that have walked over the tracks. They're on top of the lion tracks. And even now, I can't see a very clear lion track here. We saw one or two. So, but there are great signs of a lot of animals walking through here. And that's obviously what we want. But what we're going to do is we'll walk and we'll scan these areas very, very carefully. And just have a look to see if we can find that female leopard. That is our best chance at the moment. Because those tracks are fresh. Now, the other thing what we will do is hopefully try and listen out for any alarm calls. I just spotted something that I mentioned the other day I wanted to see. Let's have a look here. This is a community nest spider web. Now, these little guys are very, very cool. Look at this community nest spider web, and you can see there is still a lot of moisture on it. Wow, there are a number of bugs that have been caught in here already. This looks like a Schaefer beetle that's caught inside there. Let's see if there are any spiders in here at the moment. Sometimes a little vibration can get them to come out. Let's see now. There are often hundreds of little spiders in these nests, in the larger ones. I don't see any movement here at the moment. Perhaps it is also too cold for them. Maybe they decided to stay inside. But it's amazing. Just these clumps of webbing. And I put together all the leaves and branches, and it's quite strong. I'm not going to disturb this nest, but just to show you, I want to just grab this branch. Now you see there's There's a few branches that are kind of entwined in this webbing, that are all pulled together because of this thick nest. That's amazing. The community nest spider web. Now, when was it? Yesterday or the day before, I was doing a bushwalk and just picked a bush willow branch. And on that branch, there were just 3 insects, 3 different species of insects that we didn't even see initially. There was a spider. There were some mites of sorts that were on there too, and also what looked like a weevil. I'm just having a look around here, just seeing if we can find any other interesting little insects on these trees. This is a buffalo thorn, so I don't want to get too close. Obviously, these thorns can be brutal. So let's see. I thought I heard a leopard calling now. Did you hear that, Craig? Oh, I wonder if it's a leopard call or someone banging something very far in the distance. I don't know, you've got to listen carefully. Let's try and listen again. No, I don't think that was a leopard call. I think that was someone banging something. Maybe at one of the camps quite far. And it's amazing how sound can travel in the winter. You will definitely hear people knocking or banging on something if they're working in or around a camp. I know even at the moment they're busy redoing cheetah plains. I'm sure a lot of you know about that. And we've heard the trucks and the building that is going on there. And that's quite far from where we are. But you can hear it on certain days. All right, well, it doesn't seem like there are any insects that I can find on there just yet. Let's carry on with our leopard search. And while we do that, let's go back to Sydney.
Yeah, it is still very difficult here on my side to get hold of this leopard. The tracks are just coming and going to the road. So there has been quite a lot of activities taking place as I've been following the tracks all the way down from Pangolin Road up to Twindens Dam, and now I am on this road. So I can see there's something very interesting here taking place right in front of me. So this is a termite mound, and if you can check all these other trees here surrounding this termite mound, they're looking very dry. But the tree growing on top of this termite mound is still very green. It's a sign that this area underground is very nutritious. So this is the tree having quite a whole lot of nutrients, better than all the other trees in the surrounding. An area whereby you will find a termite mound growing surrounded by the trees, it has got a specific name. This is what is called a nutrient hotspot. So inside the termite mound, we have got a lot of termites there, and those termites, they are coming out every time and try to get a hold of the vegetation material in order to build fungus. That is why some other people these days, they consider the termite mound a fungal garden, because that is what they are making for their survival. So the termite mound, they help a lot in this ecology because they try and protect the trees during the dry season. And if there is a drought, the trees that are growing on top of the termite mounds, they are standing a better chance for survival because of the lot of nutrition under the ground. So if you can just check very nicely, the termite mound, the crest and the top, it doesn't have grass growing on it because they use the outside part as a thermometer in order to detect what is happening in their surrounding. So these are one of the very interesting insects. So you can see there's a dead tree, and this dead tree is starting to get decomposed. So these insects, their mandate is nutrient cycle. So now they are going to be able to break down the dead bodies of this plant and take it back to fertilize the soil for the benefits of the vegetation, whereby the seeds are going to grow. And at the end, us as humans, we are going to get benefits because there will be quite a lot of oxygen available. So this helps when it comes to the facilitation of the global warming and climate change. So the insects are playing a very significant role in order to have a lot of vegetation to grow. So now I am going to carry on looking for the cats, and hopefully treasure, the termites, you will find millions. They are very prolific breeders. They are very, very successful breeders. So the queen and the king are the ones responsible of breeding. The rest of the termites, they are sterile. You mustn't forget, Teresa, that the termites, those that flies after the rainy season or during the rainy season, they are also part of the termites. They are just called the alex. Those are the reproductives. They are part of the family. So we are talking about millions of termites at the same termite mound. And each one of them has got its own scent. If they've got a visitor, they can be able to detect easily that there's a visitor. Each termite mound has got its own scent. So it's quite a whole lot of them in there. But reproduction is only done by 2 of them amongst the million. So, and after the termites, I'm going to now take you to Ralph and see if maybe he's got something interesting for us. It is a very difficult morning in terms of the cats, but we are all out trying to get hold of them. Ralph, maybe he's got something for us.
Not just yet. I haven't found this leopard just yet. I'm just jumping ahead a little bit because he disappeared into one of the blocks, and so I'm just going around and just seeing if I can find him that way. And I've just checked whether he's come out. It seems like he hasn't, so I'm just now moving my way back towards down another road that I'm hoping that I'm going to drive straight into him coming in our direction. Now, sometimes leopards can have overlapping territories, but it does lead to conflict. So, like where we've got a big concentration of leopards here in the Sabi Sands, you do find that there's a relatively large amount of conflict between them. Obviously, that doesn't always result in pure fighting, because they actually want to do that as an absolute last resort, because if they fight, it can result in injury and or death, and so they need to try and avoid that at all costs, because they don't have the luxury of being able to say, okay, well, I've broken my arm because we were fighting, let's just go to the doctor and put it in a cast and I can go back and fight it another day. If they break a leg, if they get a gash or whatever it might be, if they can't naturally heal that, they are quite literally in big trouble, and can lead to death. So it's not just a case of them using conflict or immediately aggressively fighting with each other as a resolution to that conflict. That's why you have a lot of them, a lot of these techniques from lions and leopards, where it's roaring or rasping, trying to intimidate the other animal through your scent, through your call, through your markings, etc. And as an absolute last resort, if there's no backing down from both individuals, to then resort to an actual fight. So yes, there can be overlapping territories, especially around resources, for instance water, or where you've got big resources of food, such as in the Masai Mara, when you've got those migrating game. You can have the territories then overlap in those areas because all the predators want to move into that area. Another example for me was always like in Etosha National Park in the dry season of Namibia. those animals used to have overlapping territories around the waterholes, because you would have one waterhole for many, many, many kilometers, and they then would have their boundary almost at that waterhole, but they would, come into conflict there at that specific point. And I've seen many animals that are territorial fighting around at those particular spots, such as black rhino, lions, and leopard. All right, so we've... Now, YouTube viewer, I have seen the odd leopard fight, and it's... for me, those fights have generally been around males when they're mating with the female. When I first started guiding, it was 4 years before I saw my first wild leopard, and because I was predominantly in Namibia when I started out, and I spent a lot of time in Etosha National Park, and then after those 4 years, the first leopard that I spotted, it was 3 leopards together. It was 2 males that were following or trying to seduce a female leopard, and so they were fighting and over her. So once again, I say resources. Resources not only always meaning water or food, it can mean over female leopards as well. And then the next day I saw another 2 leopards, which was the female and obviously the victor of this battle. So 4 years to see my first leopard, and I saw, 5 in 2 days. But it was 3 individuals that I saw there. So yes, right. It seems like Tingana has disappeared maybe into Little Gowrie. I'm not sure. Either that or he's in that block just over there. Just off to our west, and that's west of Twin Dams. Twin Dams just coming up here. So what I'm going to do now is, I think I'm going to move a little bit in the Mlolwati, and then I'm going to head up towards where Tandi and Kuchava and the Avoca males were spotted yesterday. So while I do that and try and see for some more little tracks and signs around here, Byron, I'm sure he's got all sorts of tracks and signs as well.
Well, we've had a number of tracks off, but no luck just yet. Now we've done a big loop around, and we've come back onto these clearings in front of camp just to have a look and see if we don't have any signs of this female leopard. We cannot see where she's gone. She disappeared into a block, possibly hiding in there somewhere. I'm not sure. Now I wonder if we should, while we're sitting here, maybe listening out for any signs of that leopard. Maybe we hear some alarm calls. We can do Byron's fable of the day, I think. What do you think, Megs? Should we do it? Well, I suppose it's a perfect time. So, shall I have a seat here? All right, get all comfortable and wise. So, Byron's fable of the day. Okay, today is quite an interesting one and a great one, I think. A little bit of a lesson in there too for us. So this fable is about the baboon and the tortoise. One day, tortoise was walking around. Now, you must remember, this was actually in winter. Tortoise isn't normally active in winter. He was walking around, he bumped into baboon, and baboon said to him, "Oh, you should come to my house for dinner." And the tortoise thought, well, this is wonderful. He's really hungry. He hasn't eaten in a while. This would be great. So he went over to baboon's house, but baboon was a trickster. And he said to him, "Welcome, tortoise." And he said, "Oh, great to have you. The dinner is ready, but it's up in my house in the tree." And tortoise said, "Oh, baboon, I can't get up there." And the baboon kept taunting him and kept teasing him and said, "All you have to do is get up into the tree and you can have dinner with me." Obviously, the tortoise could not, and baboon finished his meal high up in the tree, laughing at the tortoise below. A few weeks later, tortoise thought he has to get baboon back somehow. So what he did was he thought, let me invite baboon for dinner. And he sent an invitation over to baboon and said, "Please come over to my house for dinner." And baboon was quite excited. He first thought, well, this is great. Tortoise clearly can't remember what I did to him a few weeks ago, and now he is inviting me for dinner. So baboon went over, but because it was winter, there had been a huge veld fire which went through the area, and that was really close to Tortoise's home. So as Baboon walked through this burnt area, he got that black soot on his hands. And he arrived for dinner, and Tortoise said, "Oh no, Baboon, you cannot come to dinner in such a dirty fashion. You need to go and wash down at the river." Baboon said he understands, and he raced off. There was a beautiful pot of food brewing. He raced off down to the river and had to wash his hands, and when he walked back, he obviously crossed through that burnt area again. Tortoise said, "Sorry, Baboon, we have to have manners at the table. You need to go and wash your hands again." Baboon ended up going backwards and forwards time after time, and the entire time he was doing this, Tortoise sat and enjoyed his meal by himself. Baboon eventually realized he had no chance of getting a meal and was left hungry and dirty and had to leave and go home. Just shows you there are lessons out there for us to learn. Isn't that a nice story? So don't treat people badly. I think that's probably the main lesson that we need to remember out there. All right, we're going to carry on trying to look for this leopard. Hopefully we have some luck. Let's go back across to Sydney with a beautiful bird.
Yeah, it is very lovely here on my side. What I'm seeing a lot is a lot of birds activities. So I was just now with the red-billed hornbill. Just decided to run away from us, flew up to that side. It was a very interesting sighting. And I know a lot of people, they don't know that hornbills are some of those interesting birds. So these birds, the hornbills, they do something which is called a brood patch. It's also called a co-personal breeding, whereby you will find that these birds, when having the nest, they go and hide the female in there, and the male will be responsible to bring the food every day. What he's going to do in order to build the nest is that he will go and collect a lot of mud by the neighboring dams and neighboring streams. They will come and use the mud in order to build the nest and leave a tiny little hole for him to deliver the food. And the female is going to stay in there and incubate the eggs while in there. And if by any chance the male dies outside, the female in that nest, because she cannot come out, she is going to give a rescue call. So other males of the same species will then come and assist and try to give her the food. And that is something interesting which is called a co-operational breeding. Not all the birds does that. Some of the birds don't want to exercise their parental responsibilities. So I am still on the track of looking for any of the cats, but what I found so far is a lot of activities on leopards. Lions, I have not yet James, yes, the birds are also some of my favorite animals. It's just that by this time of the year, we are left with only common residents. A lot of interesting birds, they are out on migration. So let's try and see if maybe we can find something here by the tree stem. Yeah, there's no much tracks taking place here. So they're still very quiet. Not too much evidence on animal activities where we are now. Yeah, let me see if Ralph on the other side is winning. As here on my side, it is still very, very quiet, but hopefully we're going to come across something before we finish. Over to Ralph.
Well, thanks, Sydney, and sorry to everybody that I'm just driving around for now. I know it's not ideal when you're just driving, but now I've got some more leopard tracks here on the road just in front of us, and I've got some let's see if we can get a picture of these very noisy cackling ladies, as we call them. the Hlegabafazi, or the green woodhoopoo, the old red-billed woodhoopoo. They're also cooperative breeders. No, they're not. They're arrow-marked babblers. What am I? That's a silly mistake. I used to always laugh at my students when they made that mistake. Just up ahead here. Cooperative breeders, arrow-marked babblers. If you get a little bit of a close look on them, as per usual, they've all flitted off. Yeah. Is there one there? There's a few, just, I can see them bumbling through the bushes. Is that one there as well? There's one on that side. Is that one? Oh, that looks like a different bird. A little bit on the left. Oh, and they've all flown off there now as well. And the arrow-marked babblers, also cooperative breeders, and a very similar call to that of the green woodhoopoos. But as the name suggests, they do babble, like a lot of the other babblers. A very similar sort of noisy call that they have. Once one starts, they all seem to get involved. Now, Billy, who is 6 years old, thanks very much for your question. What animals did I see while I was on holiday? Well, some of the animals that hang around where I live and in my garden are the very interesting trumpeter hornbills. Yeah, and we're just looking for some of these arrow-marked babblers who are still jumping through there. Also the crowned hornbill, they make themselves at home in my garden, as well as the fork-tailed drongo and the black-headed oriole, which is a very beautiful yellow bird with a black head. So predominantly birds that I see in my garden, but the big birds are the hornbills, like the trumpeter hornbill, who's got a very big extra bill almost on top of his head that he uses as his trumpet, and he sounds like a crying baby. But I also heard a lot of fruit bats at night, and when I was out in the ocean where I go swimming and surfing, I saw some beautiful bottle-nosed dolphins as well as common East Coast dolphins. So two different kinds of dolphins that I saw when I went surfing. Well, I also saw quite a lot of different fish. We have this Cape salmon that the fishermen, while I was sitting out in the water waiting for the next wave to come past, I saw some of the fishermen catching Cape salmon, or kabeljo as we call them. Very big ones, I must say. There were some that were over 20 kilograms. So very big fish, as well as garrick. It's a predatory fish that the guys catch. They use lures as well as live bait sometimes. They put on a small fish, and these guys definitely attack this little fish. So mostly fish and or dolphins and birds. And that's what I mostly saw on my holiday down in the Eastern Cape. Now, somebody who quite enjoys laughing at us in the Eastern Cape because we don't have any large trees, mainly just bushes, is Byron.
Yeah, we always tease people from the Eastern Cape a little bit, but I'm originally from there too, so that's the only reason I'm allowed to tease them. It is a beautiful part of South Africa, though. I reckon probably some of the best beaches in the world. They are amazing, really, really beautiful. Now, we've come through this thicker area. The last tracks that we had of this leopard came in through this block. So we're trying to scan very, very carefully to see if we can find any tracks cutting through and work out which direction this leopard went. It is a little bit tricky. Follow me, Craig. Let's maybe squeeze through here. I see a termite mound up ahead. Now, the reason why we also check around termite mounds is because leopards like to get a little vantage point. So we might find some tracks around here if this leopard has chosen to come to this termite mound. I don't see any just yet. And Cobalt, you asked what is the most violent cat encounter I've ever experienced. Well, this was actually a really amazing sighting. I'm trying to think, I just started guiding. I'd been guiding for a few months, I think 6 or 8 months, maybe a year, I can't remember. And we had so on Londolozi there was a dominant male leopard, the Campan male. He was born in an area that was a pan close to camp, obviously, so he got the name Campan male, and he was very territorial. There was another male leopard that was kind of the northern part of Londolozi. His territory was around there, and he was known as the Marthley male. Also a beautiful big male leopard. Then there was a young leopard, about 4 or 5 years old, that started trying to push his luck and basically work up a territory for himself, and take over certain areas. Now that was the Dudley 5'5" male. I think it was 5'5", Dudley 5'5" male. And this male leopard was just a brute. He just wanted to fight with every leopard that he came across. Anyway, one day we're on drive, we tracked these leopards, and the Dudley 5'5" male walked into the Campan male's territory, but this Dudley male had a female following him that was obviously trying to instigate mating. So these two leopards walked into the territory of this other male leopard. They bumped into this male, and then there was that standoff. And we saw it a little bit with those two female leopards the other day. They walk right next to each other. They growl, they salivate, and they scent mark. It's all a show to try and deter the other predator, and to get them out of their territory. Anyway, these two males then just went for it. They attacked each other, and it was a brutal fight. They grabbed, bit, clawed at one another. At one point, they were lying on the ground, scratching at each other, and we could hear them tearing at each other. It was really, really intense. The female, however, was still walking around, waiting for this male. And then we looked over, and this other male, the Marthley male, then came into the scene as well. He was probably about 30 or 40 meters away, just walking up and down. Didn't get involved, though. Just watched these two male leopards fighting. He obviously decided, listen, this is too much for me. They're not quite in my territory yet. This is just on the edge. And I think he turned and moved off again. But can you imagine, 4 leopards, 2 big males fighting? It was a really intense sighting. That was one that I think I'll remember forever. It was really, really an amazing sight. Oh, yeah, that was quite a few years ago. I think that was around 2009, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. All right, I'm still scanning very carefully here. We're going to carry on moving through this thicket. Let's head over to Sydney. I wonder if he hasn't got a story about leopards or lions fighting.
Yes, I have witnessed a very interesting fight between the lions, whereby there was a rival, and this rival was just introduced as there was a problem with inbreeding. So he was still very new, but he was very powerful. So when this rival got into their territory, the owner of the territory, together with the females, they heard him calling. And he was just patrolling everywhere. He was trying to find his feet. And this lion, the big lion, as he was calling and roaring, the females, some of the females then weren't interested on him. And they went closer to investigate just to meet him. And the dominant male in that territory was not happy about it. And he was nervous because this rival was very huge and he was looking very powerful. And you know what? As the females were approaching, the territorial holder just decided to wait. And then he stopped. And the rival decided to charge him. And then he ran away. And that was very much interesting. I know the fight amongst the lions can be very much vicious. I have also witnessed a fight whereby one of the lions lost his life on a fight. So you can see now we are in the rhino's territory. So if you can just check, you can see these are the rhino droppings. So these are the rhino droppings. So these are the droppings for the white rhino. And this is the dominant male. You can see the old scratch marks. So the dominant males, they keep coming back to the demarcation point just to renew the scent. So to us as humans, this is nothing. But I know to the animals of the same species, a lot of information is left behind. So the white rhinos, only the males leave droppings and kick the droppings, make use of the back legs. And females, they leave their droppings and don't disturb them. So when it comes to the black rhinos, which is a different species from the white rhinos, both male and females, they leave droppings and kick their droppings. And sometimes you will find that both black and white rhinos demarcated at the same point. But they don't fight and they don't compete, as territories are mainly for mating and breeding. So if the animals cannot interbreed, there is no problem, they can share the same territory. So it means we are looking for the leopards right in the rhino's territory. So leopards and rhinos can also share this territory because they don't compete for the same females. So let's see if we can find something. So let's now go to Ralph. Ralph has got something interesting for us.
Well, yes, it's one of the little creatures that we see very regularly walking on the little roads, and we also see their tracks as well. A little emerald spotted wood dove, and it's got the very characteristic hoot 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 call, which is quite a somber call, and the Zulus and the Shangans, I have said it before, but they do speak of the emerald spotted wood dove having a very sad tale to tell, because as it sings like that, it says that it's his mother has got cancer, his father is in jail, his brother's taken some drugs, and he's so sad. So a very sad tale to tell. And that when you hear them in the bush, well, you do need to feel for them. And, well, I always think of them as quite jolly little characters, the way that they always just up and down the road like that, and their tracks lead you to think that they are a little bit drunk as well, because they wind up and down, and you can see how it's moving like that. It's doing a very characteristic, and I'm using that word a lot now. That's the last time I'll say it like that. Doves walk, they really do wind up and down like that, as you can see, and they're looking just for little seeds and things along the road as they go. And there was quite a big bird party here. There was hoopoes and starlings and all sorts. That's why I stopped. But as usual, when you stop for birds, as soon as we're just about to go live with them, they all fly away. And the rain is starting to come down now, a little bit heavier as well. It's not a little splattering anymore, it's almost a full-on rain. But we can also hear the crested francolin that are just making a bit of a noise there. Right, I think we'll carry on. We're still heading now. We're getting very close to where Thandi and Kuchava and the Avoca males and Tingana was spotted yesterday. So we're very close to that area. So we'll just see if we can indeed find them again. If I don't find them here, you know, it's been an entire night since they were spotted here, I will then maybe head on over towards Biffle's Hook, But while the search is on, and we just use that as a particular goal to find some cats, but we'll stop for everything else in between. And, well, the cat search is really on.
Well, it is at the moment, but we have not had any further luck. That leopard disappeared on us. However, have a look at this weather rolling in behind us. You can actually see it's heading this way. You can probably hear the drizzle. Slight bit of drizzle. It's not great for us out on walk at the moment. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to head around towards Gallego Pan. You know, these leopards do tend to walk through certain areas and possibly need a bit of water. So maybe we'll have some luck around there. But we'll see if there's anything else we can bump into. We actually haven't seen any animals this morning yet. There's been a lot of birds around, but no impala, no wildebeest out in the clearings, nothing yet. Hey, Jess, you asked what are the chances of actually finding a pangolin? Well, you know what? It's surprising. I mean, the chances are pretty low. They are low. But I promise you, weather like this, winter, a little bit of moisture, those animals do get a lot more active. And I wouldn't be surprised somewhere on social media if we find lodges within this area seeing a pangolin in the next day or two. I really wouldn't be surprised. It's happened before, and I have spoken about it, and it definitely has happened. And the reason with the moisture, or why that helps, is it softens the soil slightly, but also gets ants and termites a lot more active, and that's potentially when those pangolin will go out and look to feed. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I really, really wouldn't be surprised. You never know. Maybe we bump into one this morning out on walk. Wouldn't that be great? That would be amazing. Love to find a pangolin out here. I've only ever seen a pangolin in the Sabi Sands once before. And that was about, 5 years, no, longer, maybe 6 years ago. That was the last time I saw a pangolin out in the Sabi Sands. However, since then, guiding in other areas, I have been fortunate enough to see many different pangolin, which is such a treat. And up in the Kalahari, it's a lot drier, ideal for those types of animals. But you never know. They do occur in this area, and maybe we bump into one. The best chance is probably on foot walking around. All right, let's head across to Sydney. I wonder if he has ever seen a pangolin.
Yeah, it is still very quiet here. The cats, they are hiding this morning. And then I've got something very interesting to show you. It's just that by this time of the year, you can see the leaves amongst all these trees are changing because of the dry season. So they are preparing themselves for the beginning of a new life. So they are going to have the new leaves by the spring. So the trees that we are seeing a lot in this area, the one that the camera is on now, this is what is called a silver cluster leaf. It's one of the very, very interesting tree. So this plant, the reason why it's called a silver cluster leaf is because of the silver on the leaves, and the leaves are clustered. So this is one of the trees where a lot of the interesting tribes are using as a medicine. You can come and take the leaf, chew that leaf in order to relieve the headache pain. You can even use the outer layers of the roots in order to treat pneumonia, bilharzia, and diarrhea. So when seeing a lot of silver cluster leaves together, like what we are seeing now, this is what is called a zip line. It means when it's raining, the water, it gets very close to the ground. So just, if you can check, there is a dead tree lying down at the bottom of the silver cluster leaf. And that one is a different species. So that one is called a weeping whittle. behind the branch that we are seeing now, there is a green tree with the branch which is lying. So the branch which is lying, just the bush which is behind us, just that we can't see it from here where I am. It's quite very bit difficult because it's right at the back. But I know there's quite a lot of weeping wattles in the reserve. Coming across a nice and clear one, I will then tell you the story about that interesting tree. So what we are doing now is we are still busy trying to see if we can find the interesting cats. And if you come across anything, I will let you know. So we are going to carry on now and see if we can find some of the interesting animals. So let's see if we can find something interesting. Yes, Control, I didn't get that question very nicely. If you can just repeat for me. From Carol, I did get the name, but the question, I lost it. Carol, that is something very interesting. By the spring, if you can check, that is the beginning of a new life amongst all the deciduous plant. The trees that are still very green now, the leaves, most of them are the evergreen trees. So the trees that we are seeing now, together with the other species, a lot of them by the spring is when they are preparing to get the flowers, and first rain comes, you will see the leaves coming out. So the years for the trees is starting from spring and it ends by end of winter. In fact, our year was supposed to also start by the spring instead of January, because by spring is when everything is new. The vegetation is when it's renewing itself. So let me try and see if we can find something interesting. So Andy, what got me interested in guiding is that while I was still very young at school, they used to invite people to come and show us some movies and films. And one of these movies, it was Wildlife, whereby there was an interpreter busy explaining to us what is happening, what the animals are thinking about, everything about animal behavior. And that is what fascinated me. I got motivated a lot by also a program called 50/50. It was one of the TV programs, so I used to watch that program a lot. And that is what made me enthusiastic to become a nature guide. Yeah, it is quiet, eh? This morning is very quiet. So let's see what Rolf has got for us. He has just arrived by a cheetah now.
African fish eagle. One of my favorite birds, especially his call, so iconic of an African scenario. But, well, I don't know if he's falling anytime soon. It looks like he's also, you see how he's fluffing out his feathers, just kind of trying to stay warm, as were the impala, and, well, us as well. I've got my hoodie on, my gloves on, and trying to stay dry and warm. But, well, yesterday, down here at the Chitwa waterhole, we had the hippos mostly out of the water. It seems like they've all decided that today is not too bad to be in the water. And there we've got a little youngster giving us a nice big yawn type motion there. But you know, sometimes when it rains, it actually warms the water up. So I'm thinking that that water is probably warmer than the outside air here now today. And I wouldn't be too far off from going for a dip, but not with hippos and crocodiles around. not at all. And there are the oxpeckers also having a little pick at some of the wounds on that hippo there. And the other one seems to want to be climbing and using it as an island, I would say. The youngsters always up to nonsense. Looks like they're having a bit of fun and enjoying the warm water this morning. Well, I'll say warm. It's probably relatively warm compared to what it was yesterday, and as I say, a little bit warmer than the outside air, especially with the wind chill factor. You often find that inside the water, when it's rainy like this, it's quite a bit warmer. And so, yeah, it looks like the hippo's enjoying. That was concurring there. The hippo is enjoying this weather probably more so than any of the other animals, because everybody else seems a little bit miserable, us included. Yeah. Seems like, yeah. Yeah. And together with the African fish eagle and hippos, that call for me really sits in my soul. And much like lions and hyenas and the calls of jackals and fiery-necked nightjars at night, the hippo call is something that is very African. As we've also got the peanut gallery of the Egyptian geese, all making a noise. They're sitting along the banks there, quite aggressive towards each other as well. Is that one going to go and fight with another one, I'm sure? Oh, no, there's the nest, yeah. And so, well, I think we're going to sit here a little bit because there's all sorts going on here next to the Chitwa waterhole, and it's been a little bit quiet everywhere else. So, but while we see what else is going on, I believe Byron has got some of those massive mammals.
I do indeed. How wonderful is this? We've just stumbled upon this herd of elephant. Oh, my favorite. Wonderful. This has just made my morning completely. Now the problem is, I'm just going to check a little bit of the wind direction. This is difficult. There's actually not much wind and the rain, but it might give us an advantage. Let's see if we can get a bit closer. Now it is a herd of elephant, so we do have to be a little bit cautious. They've moved through a thicket, which actually might help us. It's a little bit thicker, so we can approach slowly and carefully. Let's just have a look. I think one or two are quite close. Right here. Here we go. Come look. You can see now. I think they have possibly heard us already. There you can see that elephant. It is a female moving through there. This is awesome. This is awesome. As I said, with herds of elephant like this, you've got to be careful because they are quite protective of the youngsters. Let's have a look. Maybe around here, Craig. It's actually a lovely view, and we've got a bit of cover here, so this is perfect for us. Look at that. There we go. Now, this elephant must probably about 40 meters away from us, happily feeding. It actually doesn't seem too concerned that we're here yet. So this is wonderful. This really, really is fantastic. Mrs. Zero, would a bull elephant recognize his mother after he's left the herd later in life? I would say most certainly. Remember, these elephants are incredibly intelligent animals. They can pick up on the scent of each other. They probably recognize the scent. So I'm almost certain that a big bull elephant would recognize his mother at a later stage in life. Oh, isn't that fantastic? And let's keep going a little bit. Let's go out. Craig, do you want to go that way? Let's get another view. Now, the whole time we are walking and looking around, I am still scanning all around us, just in case there are some stragglers, some of the elephant that might be coming from a different direction. Now, let's have a look. Anna Marie, I'm not too sure about the elephant's nocturnal vision or their night vision. I don't think it's as bad as ours. I think it's actually a lot better than ours. Just having a look here quickly. Now, they're not too far. I do see a termite mound over there that I might try and get to, but actually has a lovely view of them out through there. Look at that. So, Anna Marie, yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the elephant's nocturnal vision or their night vision, but I do think it is a lot better than ours. They do still move around at night. They do go and feed. Oh, this is wonderful. They're coming out into the open a little bit. So we'll sit down, or stand here rather, and see. Maybe there's some babies, I'm not too sure. There's a woodpecker knocking around here too. I can't see it, I can just hear him. See, that's the wonderful thing about a situation like this. We've got elephants, but there's a lot of birds around. So much going on. Oh, this really is spectacular. Very peaceful. There's just something so special about being able to walk and view animals on foot, and especially large animals like this, like an elephant. Now, don't underestimate them. You do have to be very, very cautious when you're on foot, when you are walking around. But I think generally, if you show respect towards the animals, you keep your distance, view from a safe distance, they should be relaxed and they shouldn't feel disturbed or threatened, which is what you want to avoid. You don't want them to feel that, because then situations can turn ugly very, very quickly. And those elephants could be upon us before we knew what was happening. They're incredibly fast, believe it or not. Well, I'm going to hang around here a little bit. Let's see if we can get another view of these elephant, maybe from a different angle. But let's go across to Sydney. He's got some antelope for you.
Can they control anymore? Okay, we have got one of the very beautiful animals, the impala. So you can see all the impalas we are seeing now are carrying horns. This is what is called a bachelor head. A bachelor head consists of the big males which has been defeated on their old territories, together with the young males which have not started mating yet. In other words, a bachelor head consists of those males who are not strong enough to have territories. So it's very interesting to see that the young males which have not started mating activities are learning how to establish families from the losers. So if you can look there at the bottom of the back legs, you can see, let's look at that one. Look at the bottom of the back legs. You see it's like it's wearing black socks. That is a special communicative gland. It's called a metatarsal gland. When a predator is spotted, the impalas can be able to communicate below their predator's hearing. So what is going to happen is that whoever spots the predator first must have to jump and kick the back legs together and spray a very distinctive scent. The others from that head can pick it up and run away from danger. And in order for them to communicate to come closer after danger, they are going to spray the perfume and come back again. So the eyesight on impalas is very good. So if you look at the pupil is a little bit larger than the sock, which gives them access to see something in front and at the back without moving the head too much. So I am losing the sighting, so I just want to try and reallocate this impala so that we can have a better sighting. So the impalas are one of those interesting animals where they don't have a specific diet. They are bulk feeders. When the grass is very dry, they tend to feed on leaves. And a lot of people, they think impalas are just grazers. They don't eat leaves at all. They do eat leaves. It's just that high percentage of their diet is on grass, and they rarely browse. Seems like that impala is hearing that I'm talking about them, eh? Okay, let's carry on and see if we can find something. No.
Alain wants to know where are the females.
So that is quite a very interesting question, Alain. The bachelor head, it doesn't go with the females. So the females, they are now together with the responsible males. The impalas, they start to collect the females for breeding purposes from the beginning of January up to May. May is the beginning of their breeding season, which is called a rutting season. Here is whereby you are going to find the males chasing each other, making noises such as that is to rut. It's where this name rutting is coming from. So the females now, they are together with the responsible females for breeding purposes. It's only by November, second week of November, where they are going to start delivering the babies. So let's carry on. Yeah, let's now go to Cheetah Dam and see Ralph. Ralph has got something to share with us on the other side.
Well, yes, indeed. We've got one of the less sort of common birds that you would find generally, I would say, and that's an African spoonbill. And I do know now that it's also Kirsten's, in Final Control's favourite bird. She told me that that's been her favourite bird from a very young age. Well, this one seems to just be standing on one leg, burying its spoonbill in its back wing feathers, and just also trying to hide away from the wind and the cold and the rain. So he's just pretty much stationary. You would not be too far off for thinking that he was some kind of little statue. But while the hippos are still sitting watching us, watching them, it's almost like those mirror glasses that a lot of the people wear nowadays. I call them check me, check you glasses. But, well, we're checking them and they're checking us. Now, YouTube viewer, that's a very good question. Do animals know of impending storms coming in? Well, YouTube viewer, I think that it's all pretty much down to the barometric pressure. Now, if you know anything about that, obviously that is a very good indicator of adverse weather coming in, or cold, or should we say high pressure systems or low pressure systems. And so if you can feel that pressure, which the animals can, and us as humans can as well, we've just forgotten how to do it, or not how to do it, but we've forgotten the bodily function that normally is there, that we feel. We don't access this, or use that function anymore. And the animals can feel it. They can feel that change in barometric pressure, and that is a very good indicator of adverse weather on its way, or if it's changing to good weather, etc. And it's been exhibited many times in history, and one event that stands out for me, not particularly in terms of weather per se, but the tsunami that hit in Asia, that the recent one that literally decimated some of those islands and so on. The animals felt that change in pressure, and most of them that could headed to higher ground. And you would then notice how there was not a lot of animal casualties in that adverse conditions. But something a little bit closer to home for me was always the desert elephants that could feel that barometric pressure change, because they every year, when the rains started to come, the desert elephants would move in the dry river systems, which every year flood, but after quite excessive downpours and cloudbursts. But sometimes they can be up to 200 or 300 kilometers away, and they don't. You can't even see where the storm happening. So where you are, open skies, not a cloud in the sky, and all of a sudden we would have these elephants moving away from these river systems and going and seeking higher ground. And because once those rivers flooded, it was very dangerous, especially for the babies who would get stuck in the mud. So they would move away from those river systems, and the water would then come down 2 or 3 days later. But we always knew from the elephants' behavior that the rivers were going to be flooding and that there was going to be rain on the way. So we used to watch them, and I know for a fact that it's down to barometric pressure changes, and very extreme rises or falling of barometric pressure would indicate then that there's going to be adverse weather conditions on the way. And I'm a fisherman as well, and we always used to get surprised. When I was very young, I couldn't understand why one day we would be catching fish, every cast, it would be every cast a coconut, and then sometimes even within the same day it would all of a sudden go dead, and those fish would sound, in other words going to the bottom and stop feeding, and they would go quiet. And that was also to do with very vast changes in barometric pressure. And now I realize, looking back in hindsight, that those fish were also telling us that there was bad weather on the way. And very often after that we did used to have cloudbursts and so on. So it was very, very interesting. And yes, YouTube viewer, that is for me a very good indication that animals do or are able to predict that weather is changing for the worse, and it's all down to that barometric pressure change that they can feel. Now, whether that's, I've had people tell me that they know when a storm is on its way because maybe they get a twitch in their nose, or they've had an injury, maybe a broken thumb or something, and that thumb starts throbbing, and they then say that there's a storm on the way. And that it's actually quite true. I wouldn't say that they're incorrect, because it's because of that pressure change that they could for instance, be feeling, an arthritic joint. It can actually get sore, and then they would feel that weather adverse conditions on its way. Now, speaking of elephants and their uncanny ability of being able to tell adverse weather conditions on its way, seems Byron is still sitting with some.
I am indeed. We are still sitting, or standing rather, with this herd of elephants. They're just ahead of us in the thicket at the moment. This is such a wonderful sighting. Really, really exciting. It's just amazing to get so close to these animals. And they still have no idea we are here. Very, very happily feeding away. You can see some trunks moving there. Katrina, yes, if these elephants came towards us and noticed us and came a little bit too close to us, we would definitely react. So one thing I would do is our first reaction would possibly stand still, just see what their behavior is first, and then probably slowly back off. Now there's a big termite mound behind us that I could signal to for Herbie, Craig and myself to move back towards. Move back there and then try and get that behind. You see, there we go, that's the termite mound. Try and get that between us and the elephant, and then potentially just slowly move further and further back. If they keep coming towards us, we'll stand our ground. You don't want to back off and run. The worst thing you can do is run. So stand your ground and make sure, stay together, and then probably they should turn and eventually move off. Maybe a clap of the hands, an unnatural sound like a metal tapping on metal. All of that can deter elephants and cause them to move away from you. But the best thing is to try and get some cover, try back off slowly so that they then relax and see that you are moving away. Judy, yeah, elephants can and will breed all year round. There aren't necessarily specific times of the year. They can breed any time of the year. Just want to have a look at something quickly. If there's a little gap through here. Hold on a second, Craig. Maybe just wait there for a second. You can still see the ellies from there. You know what, I think, Craig, if you want to come through, just along here, just on the edge this way. We've still got some cover here. And, yeah, come through here, Craig, this is lovely. You can see this one. Come stand over here and look through this little gap. Let me move out the way so you can see that elephant clearly. How beautiful is that? Awesome, eh? Now again, there is still cover between us. They are still feeding. They don't know we're here. We're not going to try go any closer. This is a perfect distance. We can see them clearly. And it's a safe distance for us and for the elephant. From here, what we would do is back off slowly and just move directly away from them. But isn't this amazing? This is so great. Definitely one of my highlights to this week. Because just spending time with elephants like this on foot is so exciting. There's still a bit of rain, a bit of drizzle, so that will also help possibly with our scent blowing towards them. As you can see, they're happily feeding. They're not moving away from us. Now, I'm not sure how many elephants there are in this herd, because they are spread out. A YouTube viewer, you say the elephants seem so quiet. Indeed they are. There definitely is. Only every now and then do we hear them breaking branches and feeding. But with them walking, you actually hear very little. Now, Craig, have a look. There's one moving off to the left here. Just going to watch that one very carefully, because it is walking that way. I don't want it to surround us. I don't think it's going to. I think it's just moving a little bit further down and will carry on going that direction the rest of the herd went. But that was amazing, absolutely amazing. And like I said, we don't want to push the boundaries. We've had a wonderful view of them. We're going to leave these elephants in peace and we're going to head back towards the camp. All right, let's go back across to Sydney now.
Okay, I have got one of the very interesting trees here. It's one of the very popular poisonous tree in southern Africa. I know a lot of people, they battle to recognize this tree, especially at young age. The oldest ones, you find that the matured tamboti trees, they have got a very a crocodile. It's like a crocodile skin. The bark is like a crocodile skin. So this is one of those trees where you are not allowed to come and harvest the wood for drying purposes. If you do that, you are going to experience a very serious running stomach, which might even lead you to dehydration. People can lose their lives from the drying the meat from the tamboti trees. Sometimes you'll find that on these trees, there's some galls that develops here. We have got some of the insects, which are called the gallmage, which normally come and bite the branch deliberately, knowing that the tree is going to react by releasing a lot of growth hormones in order to develop a gall. Once that gall is developed, is where that insect is going to lay the eggs. So in other words, they use the tree in order to protect their eggs inside the branch. So and then soon as the eggs are ready to hatch, then the little ones will come out. So this is the tamboti tree. Okay. So let's carry on and see if we can find something before we finish with the game drive. So I'm going to try my luck on this road. Maybe we're going to find something interesting. Yeah, let's try and see if we can find something interesting. Okay. But now this...
There's a question from Tony Two Toes. Have you ever been... Sorry, cancel that. Question, Safari Soul. What is the best skill you need to become a Safari Soul?
Yes, I didn't get that question very nicely, and I only got the first piece of the question, which is about the skill. If you can repeat that question for me. That is a very, very interesting question. The most interesting skill you must have to become a field guide is enthusiasm. You must have to be enthusiastic on nature, and one of the skills you must have is a communication skill. Now let's see if we can find something. Yeah, it's still very quiet, eh? So let's now go to Brian, who is doing the bushwalk, and see what he's got for us.
Well, nothing at the moment. We've moved away from those elephant. What a fantastic sighting. And we just going through a thicker drainage line at the moment. Also, still bearing in mind, we are keeping a lookout for tracks of that female leopard that we had earlier today. You never know. She could have come through this direction and headed towards the Gallagher waterhole, which is just up ahead, not far from us. So we'll keep an eye out. But I think that leopard gave us the slip. Jason, you asked if I'm related to that South African singer, Justin Sarau. No, we're not related. I do know him, though. I do know him, and he is a friend of mine. But funnily enough, our families come from the same area, so potentially we may be related somewhere down the line, but we actually aren't related. Yeah, he is a well-known singer in South Africa. He better thank me for promoting him now live on live television. Let's watch these trees, Craigie. There we go. Now we're approaching the water hole. Let's just see again. Always being cautious when approaching water, because you never know. There could be some animals that have come to drink. But what a great morning. Even though the weather wasn't ideal, we still had a wonderful, wonderful walk. And a big thank you to Sydney and Ralph on the vehicles with the roofs. I know that's not always easy, but thank you very much to them. And then, of course, Megan. Megan was in the final control this morning. It's great to have Megan back. As always, Megan and Kirst, I think, were in the final control. So big thank you to them. The voices in my head, as I always say. But yeah, it was fun. Last few days were a lot of fun. It was action-packed. Lions, we had leopards. We had a lot to see and talk about. So thank you very much again to all the viewers for your questions and comments this morning. And yes, as I said, King James I has fired me again, but I'll be back again at some point. I don't know when. I'll chat to James. But thank you very much. It's been great. Another wonderful time on SafariLive. We'll see you all soon, and keep you updated with trips, and who knows, more animals and more excitement. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much.